What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into TTP Sports. And once again, we are talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, which is, right now the bane of everyone's existence in the city of Philadelphia. This team is an utter train wreck. They have collapsed at this point. We can't even say they're collapsing, they have fully collapsed. We're at the lowest of the low right now, it feels like, with this team. And right now, I personally don't see it getting any better. There's one more game to go. That's, next Sunday against the New York Giants. Final game of the season until you do get into the wild card round of the playoffs because let's be real at this point. Obviously, they're not getting the number 2 seed anymore. They were never getting a bye week. They're playing wild card weekend for, you know, at this point right now. They're not getting the number 2 seed anymore. That was obvious. At this point, I don't even think they're going to win the division because Dallas, they need to win a game, and that's against the Washington Commanders. And I just fully don't see the Eagles even getting a chance to win the division. And at this point, I don't even care if they don't even win the division at this point because they don't deserve it. Because they don't deserve it. And there's honestly, with the way that you played against the Giants last week, I wouldn't even be shocked if you lost to them this Sunday. I really wouldn't even be shocked at all at this point. And then, regardless of who you face in the wild card round, you're going to be, what is it, the 5 seed, the 4 seed, or whatever it's going to be. I believe it's the 5 seed. You're going to be playing the NFC South winner, which is either going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Atlanta Falcons, most likely Tampa Bay, because if I remember looking at the schedule correctly, Tampa Bay plays Carolina in the final game, and Atlanta plays New Orleans. And Atlanta, I believe, needs Tampa Bay to lose in order to even win the division, and Atlanta needs to win and Tampa to lose, basically. That's the combination there. If Tampa wins, they win the NFC South, and that's basically who the Eagles will be facing. And the Eagles will have to go down to Tampa Bay in order to play Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers for the wild card round. And I don't even know what the result will be. Would I believe this Eagles team could win a playoff game? I'm sure deep down in my mind I probably would still say yes, because I just overall think talent-wise the Eagles should beat Tampa Bay, but that's another discussion for another day. That's another couple of weeks away at this point. We'll probably get down to that type of business when we even get there. But, my emotions, my thought process, everything is so down on this team just because of everything that has been transpiring basically over the last 4 or 5 weeks ever since the San Francisco game. Yeah, you won 2 weeks ago against the Giants to make us somewhat feel good, but even no, none of us felt good after that game against the Giants because it was still a close game. It was still a situation where you're sweated out the entire time because you were completely underplaying against, just bottom competition, teams that are completely worse than you talent wise, and you're just so lost to this point where you completely get dominated by a 3-12 team in the Cardinals where they don't even punt. They don't even punt the entire game. The only time they didn't score was the pick six that you got against them. And that was even lucky because it was a miscommunication between Kyler Murray and one of his receivers. And good for Sidney Brown to get that, but that was lucky as hell. That was just insanely lucky as hell. He was in the right position at the right time on that miscue. Because, hell, I probably could have even caught that ball in that position. I'm sure anyone in that position would have been able to catch that ball because Sidney Brown was so wide open. But the way that your defense just completely crumbled against that offense, and yes, Arizona's run game was definitely, good overall coming into that game. They should have been able to run on you that badly. I'm sorry. They should not have been able to run on you that badly. They should not have been able to go down the field as easily as they were basically the entire game. That's what it was. Like I said, they didn't punt a single time. Not one single time. They scored on all of their drives in the second half. They got 2 field goals in the first half with, the pick six that the Eagles got against them. It just can't happen. And the way that they controlled the time of possession, Jonathan Gannon basically did to you what the entire game plan of the Eagles was last season. Control time of possession, dominate the entire game, make sure the other team basically does not have any time whatsoever to operate on offense, to operate the football, to get downfield or anything like that. Jonathan Gannon basically outcoached you to a T. He outcoached you with the way of your philosophy was last year. And Nick Sirianni is literally admitting it in his, Monday after press conference that he got outcoached. He got outcoached by his former coordinator. And it was one of those other games, like many other games this year, that was circled on the calendar from the beginning of the year that once again this team failed up to do. And yes, I understand the offense scored 31 points, but even Nay, excuse me, even Nay left a lot to be desired. A ton to be desired. First and 20, second and 20, quarterback, draws up the middle, and then you get a third and 20 with a screen pass. I believe it was to Kenny Gainwell, where Devontae Smith, once again, for some reason, was the lead blocker. I don't know why. And him being the lead blocker in that process got him fucking injured, which they're saying it's a mild ankle sprain, so it's not as serious as they thought it would be. But he shouldn't be in that position to begin with, because why are you scripting in your play Devontae Smith being a lead blocker? It happened a week ago against the Giants or something. I believe it was against the Giants. Devontae Smith was a lead blocker on a screen pass to Dallas Goedert. It just can't happen. It can't happen. Whether you want to blame certain players, whether you want to blame Jalen Hurts, and I don't firmly believe Jalen Hurts has not been what he was last year. That is completely obvious. This is not all on Jalen Hurts like some Jalen Hurts haters are saying out there. They're not putting any blame on the coaching staff. They're not putting any blame on Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman, and all that stuff. It's all on Jalen Hurts. He's the reason why this offense isn't operating to its capabilities, and that's the reason why this team has not been successful for consistent bases throughout the entire season. And parts of that are true, but the entire thing is not run by Jalen Hurts. Offenses are coached for a reason, and this offense, this coaching staff, it's not putting players in positions to succeed. Think about this. When was the last time that A.J. Brown physically had a touchdown? When was the last time A.J. Brown had a touchdown? I believe it was against the Buffalo Bills. And how many weeks ago was that? How many weeks ago was that Bills game? It was definitely way before the San Francisco 49ers game. So you're talking about 5 straight games. 5 straight games that your best receiver, one of the best receivers in football, doesn't have a touchdown. That's a problem. That's a problem. Think of the way that Dallas Goedert has been underutilized the entire year. Yeah, he was injured for a little bit of that time with the fractured forearm. He still came back, but still think about how underutilized he has been. Think about with the way that they use Devontae Smith, and they constantly force him to go into these double coverage plays where he has to jump into the air to try to track down the ball. Yeah, there was a situation in the game against Arizona where Jalen Hurts throws a deep shot. Was the ball, running off a little bit to maybe the force Devontae Smith to make the catch a little bit tougher, but it was still in the hands of Devontae Smith. Yes, he still should have caught that. It should have been a first down Eagles, and maybe the Eagles would have scored on that drive, and maybe that would have been a result in winning the game. I have no idea. I'm not trying to think of ideas of why they won the game. I'm just trying to think of reasons why this offense has not been as successful, with the way that they continue to neglect the run game, the way that they continue to neglect DeAndre Swift when he just goes non-existent for periods of time in the game, when you have an 1,000-yard rusher and he disappears at certain points because for some reason they just don't feel like using him, and they want to use Kenny Gainwell in the worst situations possible because for some reason Kenny Gainwell is the red zone quarterback. For some reason Kenny Gainwell, we're just force-feeding him the ball. And think of all the times when, Quez Watkins was in the rotation. He's not in the rotation anymore. Julio Jones and Zacchaeus are definitely getting way more options there. But think of, situations where we're force-feeding the ball to Quez Watkins. For some reason, he is our deep threat. Think about that goddamn Seattle game where, he doesn't even try to fight off the guy picking off the ball. He doesn't even try to force the ref to make a decision of whether it's defensive pass interference or anything like that. He just doesn't. He just doesn't. He just meh, don't want to do anything. Meh. I don't feel like fighting for the ball. I don't feel like trying to prove anything. No. No. Hell, freaking JJ Arcega-Whiteside probably would have made that look more of a pass interference than Quez Watkins did. Did I just say that? Did I just say that? Did I try to give JJ Arcega-Whiteside credit? Hell, Jalen Rager, who had a freaking, was it kickoff punt return touchdown the other day for the Patriots? I didn't think I would be able to blather that out of my mouth. I didn't think I would be bringing up Jalen Rager in this game, but holy shit. There's just things that are going on with this Eagles team that I'm just like, oh my God. Everything. 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 It's tiresome. It is so tiresome. Everything from that game, everything that has started with this collapse has started since that game against San Francisco. It has. It has. 10-1 start. Yes, we saw the flaws with this team. And I don't want to take away anything from the 10-1 start, but at this point, the 10-1 start just feels irrelevant. It just feels completely irrelevant because it is irrelevant. It really is. Everything that we thought of highly of this team, with the way that they found ways to win, the way that they don't die, the way that they play in the fourth quarter, the way that they construct game-winning drives and everything like that, all of that went away as soon as you got curb stomped by San Francisco. All of that went away. You lost all the benefit of the doubt. You lost all the ability to. It's basically, yeah, what Corey said right there. I just saw it pop up in the live feed right here. Ever since you got punched in the mouth, you never responded. You have been hiding in the corner. You got punched once. And you just kept letting yourself get punched and punched and punched and punched. You got beaten up by the bully, and you chose not to stand up to the bully once. That's basically what the Eagles did. The little hit of adversity that they got, it completely they just allowed it to fall apart. They just allowed it to collapse. And who's responsible for that? It goes to this coaching staff. It goes to this coaching staff. It goes to Nick Sirianni. It goes to whatever the hell they're doing with the coordinators. Brian Johnson, whatever you want to say, freaking Sean Desai is the coordinator, whether you want to say Matt Patricia is the coordinator. Apparently, like a few weeks ago, before it even announced Matt Patricia was taking over play calls, apparently they already got rid of, third down play call away from Sean Desai. I believe it was during the stretch starting against San Francisco, I believe, if everything is correct there. That apparently, 2-3 weeks before he even announced anything about Matt Patricia, he's already taking over third down play calls away from Sean Desai. So who the hell even knows who's calling plays at this point? Because they could say that, oh, Brian Johnson, we're going to give, Nick Sirianni taking over play calls at this point. But it could have been Nick Sirianni for the fifth freaking 10th week in a row at this point, to where Brian Johnson is just going over and calling plays that Nick Sirianni wants him to call. That's basically it. Does Brian Johnson even have creative fluidity over this entire offense? Probably not. Probably not, because this is, bottom line, this is Nick Sirianni's offense. Nick Sirianni is not a creative offensive mind. He's not a good offensive mind for what he was supposed to be coming over from Indianapolis. And look, I know there's a lot of people out there right now that are calling for Nick Sirianni's head, but I'm also going back and forth in my mind right now because obviously, yes, he's going to be on the hot seat, but I just don't think it's a good thing for, you had such a successful season last year, and then this is the third season in a row. Yes, Nick Sirianni, he's the first coach in Eagles history to lead the team in his first 3 seasons to the playoffs. He's the first coach in franchise history to do that. So I think there is something to that. But then there's also the fact that he's just right now completely lost the locker room. And it's just a broken atmosphere, and his rah-rah cheerleader type of attitude, it's not working. And that was one of the things that a lot of people brought up from his first introductory press conference when, half the fan base was talking about, oh, he's not going to last. He doesn't have the, the smell of a head coach. And then, you get the other part of the fan base that was willing to, give him a shot. It's his first time doing this. He was probably insanely nervous, during the press conference. I mean, who wouldn't be at this point? And then, yeah, the first season didn't start off the best, but you found a way to go on an insane hot stretch, and you find you're squeaking your way into the playoffs. And then last year was a magical season where you were up 10 points in the Super Bowl. And yes, a Jalen Hurts fumble was one of the biggest turning points in the game, which probably if Jalen Hurts doesn't fumble that ball, you do win the game. But Jalen Hurts was dynamic as hell, regardless in that Super Bowl. It was just your defense needed to make one stop and it didn't. And you probably would be talking about being Super Bowl champions if your defense was just able to get a stop at that point. But at the end of the day, all that shit's irrelevant now because it is what it is. The past, you can't change that. The past happened, and you can't change that. And then you get off to a 10-1 start. And yes, we all talked about how difficult it is to get back to the summit. It's, easy to get there one time. How are you going to get there? It's insanely difficult to get back there another time. Well, I wouldn't say it's easy to get there the first time. It's still difficult as hell to get there regardless. But just thinking about going to the Super Bowl back to back years, that's a really, near impossible feat. And most teams don't do that on a consistent basis. And yeah, we all understood that. But when you get off to a 10-1 start, like how can you not believe it? But then you just see the entire free fall that this team just went through over the past 5 weeks. It's just this team is nowhere close to the same. They're not that close connected unit. That locker room is completely torn apart. And it starts with Nick Sirianni. It does. But then you can also throw blame to the front office to where, Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie. There's a lot of talk about, with the way that the process and everything going like that, with the way that they were hiring coaches, especially during the off season. I remember I think I just saw it on Twitter that, I think they were talking about the Michigan defensive coordinator that was, they were just playing, I believe, what was it, the Cotton Bowl or something like that? And what is it, Michigan going to the national championship? I have no idea. I barely follow college football. I'll probably be watching the national championship game, but overall, I really haven't been following all that. But I do remember seeing a tweet out there talking about that with Nick Sirianni. And, the whole process with hiring Sean Desai definitely wasn't out a route to go for them that they normally don't do. And they normally hire a lot of guys within house. And there's a lot of question marks about who. I'm trying to remember the what was it, the linebacker coach or the defensive back coach that the Eagles had last year that went to Baltimore. I'm trying to see defensive. I don't remember his name. If you guys remember his what was it Denard Wilson, I believe it was. Yes, yeah, it was Denard Wilson. Denard Wilson. That's who it was. I think that's who it was. Yeah. Yeah, he's defensive back coach now for the Ravens. He was the Eagles defensive back coach last year, and he was definitely one of the people that was one of the options to be promoted to defensive coordinator this year, and they went a different route. They went after Sean Desai. I don't know if that was a Nick Sirianni thing. I don't know if that was a Howie Roseman thing, but Denard Wilson left. He went to the Baltimore Ravens, and suddenly that team is one of the best teams in football and definitely could be seen as one of the favorites to go to the Super Bowl and definitely win the Super Bowl along with the San Francisco 49ers. That definitely is a very, 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 very high possibility for that to happen. And, he was very beloved in the Eagles locker room, and maybe, not having him maybe fractured the locker room a little bit. I just don't know with the way that Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie run things. There's a lot of talk about yes men and everything like that. Howie Roseman and all that stuff, they only hire yes men, so they don't have to worry about conflicting egos or anything like that for a guy to come into this locker room to try to demand he wants all the power and everything like that, like a Bill Belichick would do, because Bill Belichick is a guy that wants to be a GM and a head coach at the same time, or head coaches that have egos throughout this league. I'm trying to think of other head coaches that you could say has an ego. Probably Mike Tomlin from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm also trying to think of, some other head coaches out there that you could probably have some egos, but I really can't think of those off of the top of my head right now. But he definitely, and you could bring up Chip Kelly too, because Chip Kelly came here. He was an egocentric maniac, and he took over all, the GM spot. I remember from all that time, like that was one of the, worst positions the Eagles were in their franchise history. Even though at the time Chip Kelly was definitely seen as a very, very, very sexy hire coming out of college. For most of the teams in the NFL, it just turned out to be a very nightmare scenario that no one expected it to be. But, you know, offensive coordinators, they usually always promote those guys from within house. Brian Johnson was one of those guys. I'm sure Jalen Hurts had a say in that entire thing because him and Brian Johnson go way back. The connection with Jalen Hurts' father and all that stuff. He's basically known Jalen his entire life, or he's known Jalen for Jalen's entire life at this point, ever since he was a kid. So I'm sure there's something to that. But hey, is, Brian Johnson not being able to fully, I guess, fulfill what he thinks the offense should be? Is that getting under the skin of Jalen Hurts? Is, Howie Roseman and all that stuff saying this is how the offense should be, this is how we're going to run it? And does, Nick Sirianni, not able to do anything here? Is he not able to have full say? Is Brian Johnson just the guy sitting here not being able to have a say either? And is Jalen allowed to even speak up for this instance? Like, hey, I want Brian running this offense. I want him to have his own mindset into how this offense is able to run. And is that bothering Jalen? Is that bothering Jalen? I don't know. I don't know. And that's, you know, one of the issues as well. And even going back to the front office, more stating on Howie Roseman and also the way this team is built. It's just the fact that with the way your team was built last year, infused with a lot of youth, offensively, defensively, also mixed with veteran talent offensively and defensively, you lost a lot of that in the offseason. And yeah, you were forced to bring back Bradbury, but that also goes to the fact that Howie Roseman was just completely, for as good as he is at manipulating the cap and how better Howie Roseman definitely has got ever since he got back into the front office, help, constructing this team to win a Super Bowl in 2017 with Doug Peterson and all that stuff. He was also responsible for hiring Doug Peterson. So that's another credit to Howie Roseman. But, Howie Roseman has his flaws. And one of his flaws is recognizing talent that is not, recognizing talent that aside from your defensive line to where he's just obsessed with building it from within from the trenches. And yes, building within from the trenches is 100% a very important aspect of your football team. The offensive line and the defensive line are very important. But when when you constantly neglect everything else, when you constantly deflect, the linebacking situation, the secondary, your safeties, your corners, it's all going to fall apart when you're constantly just over relying on your defensive line to get to the quarterback and you don't have the sustainable talent in the secondary to make up for that because you don't have that sustainable talent. You have guys that are very young and inexperienced or guys that are on the waiver wire or undrafted free agents or guys that, are flip-flopping through teams throughout the league because they can't fully stay on an NFL roster. You're going to get exposed. And that's basically what's happening right now with this team. Howie completely, you had a young CJ Gardner Johnson and you refused to bring him back. You had TJ Edwards, you had Marcus Epps in your linebacking core that were part of the very successful defense last year. Yes, Reed Blankenship was a standout last year, but for Reed Blankenship to be your lead tackler and everything like that, that shouldn't be the case. Reed Blankenship probably shouldn't be your number one safety type of guy. That's just my honest opinion. I think Reed Blankenship is a solid player. I think the Eagles are overvaluing him way too much, in my honest opinion. That's just me. That's just me. And now over the past few days, there's been a lot of talks about, previous drafts and everything like that, where, drafting Jordan Davis instead of Kyle Hamilton and looking where Kyle Hamilton is with the Baltimore Ravens. Everything comes back to the Baltimore Ravens at this point. Kyle Hamilton is already a, generational talent in his position, the safety position, corner position, wherever he's playing with in Baltimore. He's already all pro. He's already a fantastic player. And yeah, that was a situation where the Eagles could have already had something there. In last year's draft, you pick Nolan Smith over possibly Joey Porter Jr. in another position of need that you needed in the secondary. Joey Porter Jr. probably could have had there. And you decided to go Nolan Smith, who right now definitely does look to overmatch in a certain situation, and it's just that constant, you know, addictiveness to building from within the trenches, regardless of how important that is to your team. But that's Howie's weakness. He's obsessed with drafting defensive linemen. He's obsessed with finding replaceable guys there, and he doesn't care about the secondary. And that's the major issue. And I don't know how they fix that. I don't know how you can fix that in one off season, because at this point I'm just looking at the off season because I don't expect this team to do anything during the playoffs. I know I've seen also a lot of things on, what's been going on with what? I'm trying to think. People have been trying to compare this Eagles squad in the stretch they're going to, I believe, to the 2012 Baltimore Ravens, who got off to a good start. Then they, faltered a little bit at the end of the season, and then they went on a incredible run to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl, on the back of Joe Flacco and all that stuff. I don't see that. I don't see that happening one bit, unless this team just somehow magically turns it around wild card weekend against whoever they play from the NFC South, most likely Tampa Bay. Whoever they play, it's just unless they blow that team out, if it's another situation where it's just a very close game where it comes down to the wire and it ended up being the other team just barely made a mistake on a throw or something like that, which should have been a touchdown or anything there, I'm not going to be excited. I'm not going to be excited. I'm like, oh, well, you want a playoff game? You're going to the divisional round. Well, you're probably losing in the divisional round. So, yeah, I'm not fully prepared for this Eagles team to do anything in the playoffs. I don't think anyone is. And if you're thinking that this Eagles squad is going to do anything in the playoffs, you are taking some kind of drugs, which I don't want to partake in. That's just personally me. Like, I appreciate optimism and all that stuff. I love to be an optimistic guy. I love to have faith in my team. But there's just comes to a point where you have to be realistic, where you just can't be like, sunshine and rainbows and positivity over every single thing. It's just not going to be able to happen. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous at this point. They're like, I don't know how anyone could believe this Eagles squad right now could win in the playoffs. Yeah, there's a lot of talent offensively, and this offense should be way better than what it's doing on a weekly basis. But it's just not coming together. It's just not. It's just not. And it starts with coaching. It starts with coaching. Because this offense is way too talented for, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert to barely be touching the ball on 1st and 20, 2nd and 20. It's just, why are we calling quarterback draws up the middle? And they're talking about being aggressive and everything like that. It's it doesn't make sense. What they're saying in press conferences doesn't make sense. Like they're saying, oh, I should have been better here. Oh, like they say one thing one day, then they contradict themselves the next day. It's like, Nick, what do you want us to know? And then, like, there's talk about, with A.J. Brown and all that stuff, how he's not been talking to the media. Apparently, he's going to be talking to the media tomorrow. So that should be, getting your popcorn ready for whatever A.J. Brown has to say on regards to everything going on here. But I don't know. I don't know. And should Nick Sirianni be fired? I know that's a hot topic going around. I know that's a very hot topic. I think I'm more on the side of, because obviously I don't think these coordinators are lasting this season. They're obviously going to make changes in those departments. I'm on the side of, let's see what Nick Sirianni can do next year with a brand new set of coordinators that are hopefully better than the ones that they have this year. I think I'm more on that side because I do value what Nick Sirianni has been able to do. Getting this team to the playoffs in his first 3 seasons, like I said, that's the first time any Eagles coach has done that in their franchise history. So that is something, in my opinion, to value. But definitely, yeah, if they don't get off to a good start next year, he's definitely on the hot seat. Like, I'm not denying that. I don't think we should automatically can him after the season. I don't think that's the case. But we're all in a bad spot right now. But, I'm seeing some other people saying that, oh, we got to fire the entire coaching staff. We got to get rid of every player. We got to get rid of Jalen and everything like that. This is Carson Wentz 2.0. I'm not going that far. I'm not going that far. I'm not that crazy. I understand if you want to get your frustration in and all that stuff. It's not that far. Not that far. It's ridiculous. Jalen's too talented. This offense is too talented. Does bringing in better coordinators fix this entire mess? And is Nick Sirianni just one of those guys that as good as his coordinators are? I don't know. And is there so much that his rah type of mentality can handle? And right now, it's not able to handle everything. I don't know. I don't know. But I have been yapping for 30 minutes. I think it's time to get to the anytime hotline here. So if you want to leave any reactions and everything like that, thoughts on anything, you can leave those at 215-839-9885. Leave it on anything, Eagles, Flyers, game recaps or anything like that, breaking news or anything like that. definitely leave those in the text message board, the voicemail board, or you could just, join in on the YouTube live feed. I appreciate anyone for doing that. But I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to shut up for a little bit, and we're going to get to Sean here, who is on the Anytime Hotline. Let's see what Sean has got to say. Take it away, Sean.
Evening, Amadeo. Happy New Year, and hopefully your mom's doing better with the COVID fight.
She is actually, thank you for asking that, Sean. Thank you for she is actually doing better. It's funny, when I brought that up on Sunday, she's been way better ever since, and we all expected that to happen. So, but I do appreciate that, Sean. Sorry for interrupting.
Eagles situation, are the coaches, i.e. Sirianni, to blame? Of course. But I think the wound runs deeper than that. I think you have to go all the way to the top. To me, the biggest issue with this team is, I guess you'd call it, the egocentric way that Lurie and Roseman are running this team. I mean, the refusal to commit to the running game, the refusal to bring in legitimate linebackers, the refusal to play any kind of aggressive defense, the refusal to bring in veteran coaches as opposed to yes men. I think all these things in conjunction are the reason that the team is where they're at. I even wonder about Sirianni or any of these coaches. How can you coach when you're restricted by upper management? Maybe Nick Sirianni wants to do other things offensively. Maybe Sean Desai or Matt Patricia wants to do different things defensively. But when your bosses are telling you no, what can you do? And the other thing that's striking to me is this. With all the turmoil that's going on currently, you notice you haven't seen or heard from Howie or Jeffrey at all? They're nowhere to be found. They're sending their minions, i.e. their sheep, to the press conferences to be slaughtered. And that's the telling tale to me. Not only are we in dire straits now, I think we're in dire straits in the future if they don't put their arrogance aside and wake up and see that this is the Titanic, this is a sinking ship, and it's about to hit the iceberg.
Oh. Whoa. Sean with the words of weapons there. Oh, those are haymakers there to Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Yeah, it's odd to me that you haven't heard a peep from, Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie and all that stuff. But there's like so many things that, when you go to like all this coaching change stuff and everything like that, like all the leaks that come out of the Eagles when, beat reporters bring it out there, like the main guys out there in like Ian Rappaport, all that stuff, everything. Howie Roseman's the guy that's quote unquote leaking all this stuff. Like he has these guys in his pocket, when he wants information out, he'll tell these guys and they'll say, like, I've heard a source from the Eagles that so and so is, this and this and that. It talked about all the Sean Desai stuff and everything like that. It's, I'm sure it came out with the play calling situation where how Sean Desai was stripped of third down play calling like 3 weeks before they actually even removed him for the position and before we even found out about everything like that. So, yeah, I got nothing. I got nothing. I know Howie Roseman has his strengths. Howie Roseman has his flaws. And right now, the flaws are completely outweighing the strengths. When it felt like when it felt like Howie can do nothing wrong over the past couple of years, it seems like everything is just spiraling out of control, and we don't know how this is going to be fixed. I don't think it's going to be fixed this year. Can it be fixed next year? Yeah, possibly if you fix the right things. But I don't think it can be fixed this year. You need the touch of God to fix all this crap. And I don't see it happening. I don't. I do not. I do not. I don't know. I don't know. Let's get to the live chat here before I end this off and stop talking. Because I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing me blabber the entire time. I'm trying to think of other things. on the docket. We got Flyers tonight against Edmonton. Depending on the outcome of the game, I was gonna do a recap for the game on New Year's Eve against Calgary. Even though it was a one-score finish, the Flyers really didn't play a good game. So if loss or the product is good tonight, I'll probably recap it tonight in a recording version, and also talk about the Calgary game in process. But we'll basically figure out the docket there tomorrow. Maybe I'll put it up tomorrow and everything like that. Maybe we'll talk about something else or anything like that. We got Flyers, on the next couple of days, on the docket this week as well, home games and everything there too. So it's all a process there. So let's get to this live feed. Yeah, we are definitely down tremendously, channel name. We are definitely down. Very, very down tremendously. Or Pat. I should probably call you Pat because your name is Pat. I shouldn't call you channel name. I should call you Pat. I know your name, Pat. Eric, I feel the coaches in the front office is destroying Hurts' career this year. I don't blame you for thinking like that. Yep, coaches have definitely lost the locker room. Should have kept Doug. But that's the thing. Like, if you're going back, we should have kept Doug. It was the same process that ended up, Doug's not that fantastic of a head coach. Yeah, he's won a Super Bowl and all that stuff, but there are definitely plenty of coaches out there that probably have won a Super Bowl that probably don't really deserve one. I know Mike McCarthy comes up to mind, like he has a Super Bowl because of Aaron Rodgers with the Green Bay Packers and all that. So yeah, there's Doug isn't like the best of coaches in the world. Yeah, he got us our Super Bowl, so he's definitely going to be deep into the hearts of Eagles fans. But I think at that point, yeah, it definitely was time to part ways with Doug, regardless of it, how the whole process went and how ugly it was actually. I can't believe our season is going to end at the hands of Baker Mayfield. Honestly, it probably will, man. It probably will. Since Chip Kelly, I feel the front office and owner only care for big play offense and stick defense, and they don't care about who wins. Doug's the better coach than Nick. Then they need an Andy Reid coach in here right now. Eh. Uh, what's even worse is that most of our team is healthy and they still lost the Giants. Last drive for the offense was a disgrace. Quarterback draw. Hurts knew it won't hurt. That's why he rolled left. Then Gainwell short. Yeah. I blame Howie and the coaches. They hired unqualified coaches for the Super Bowl team. But that's the thing, how Sirianni was fantastic last year. And if you want to say that was a whole, coordination of Steichen and Gannon and combined and all that stuff, but Sirianni still brought it together. So I think you got to give Nick Sirianni credit for that. But yeah, he deserves a lot of blame for, the collapse that is going on right now. But it also deserves to go to the front office too. I think we can't leave the front office off the hook. This team gets punched in the mouth and they can never respond. I've been watching Seth Joyner and all makes sense now. Hurts, Lurie, and Howie with statistics people bookworms are calling the shots, not the coaches. We are going to have a Wentz situation again. I honestly have no idea how to fix this team. It's insane how far they've fallen in such a small amount of time. Maybe bring in Bill Belichick. No, no. Bill Belichick would never want to coach in his organization. He would want too much power, and Howie and Jeffrey would never give it up. Nick is a yes man. His success was offensive coordinator for 2 seasons. He's gone. Eh, eh. Make Torch the head coach. Maybe 2 linebackers, 2 quarterbacks, and two, I'm assuming safeties, and an edge rusher in the draft. Yeah. Howie had balls. He would ask Harbaugh to come back into the NFL. Gannon is now blitzing like his hair is on fire. Schwartz is blitzing like nuts now. My belief is the front office is telling. 100% the front office tells the coaching staff what to do. 100%. 100%. I heard Doug was brought in office when Eagles won a game running 50 times. They asked him, why aren't you following the game plan? Heard Doug said we won the game. Yeah. Sixers are blowing out the Bulls right now. Well, that's not surprising. That is not shocking. Would they have a full healthy lineup? You could see what they can actually do. I wanted to let Bradbury go and yeah, it was definitely preferable, but Howie saw another situation. He didn't want to pay those guys. Not a football fan. What happened since 10-1? Should have traded for Roquan Smith when the Bears made him available. Now he's on the Ravens. Everyone was praising Howie in this past offseason on paper. He made the right moves, just coaching and the players have not performed. I'm not ready to fire Sirianni, but it is time to draw up something new. My dream coaching staff is Harbaugh, head coach, Frank OC, and Seth Joyner, DC. I'm assuming that means Frank Reich as the OC. Eric, Wayne Gretzky, Grey Cup kept champion. Okay, okay. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? What was I going to say? Drawing a blank. I'm drawing a major blank right here. Don't think there's anything else for me to say, unless until we find out what AJ Brown says tomorrow. What is AJ Brown going to say? I don't know. I don't know. He's been refusing to talk these past couple of weeks, but we'll see. We'll see what happens in those predicaments. Well, I've been talking for a long time, boys. It's been over 40 minutes at this point. It's almost 8 o'clock. We do got Flyers at 9 o'clock, so I wanted to get this out there for you guys in order to watch that, unscathed. So possibly we'll have a Flyers recap tonight or tomorrow. It just depends on when I'm able to get it up. So definitely look forward to that. But for now, I appreciate you guys for joining in tonight. Appreciate you guys, leaving your comments in the comment section and everything like here, just chatting it up here, talking about the Eagles, complaining about the Eagles, national pastime and everything like that. So don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Does me a great deal of service. Also use the code TTPSPORTS. $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Great deal. Don't pass it up. Eagles suck. We all know this. Will they fix it? Probably not. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Thanks, guys, for joining tonight. Maybe we'll have another Eagles talk tomorrow, depending on what AJ Brown says. Well, that could also be a thing. So stay tuned, guys. You'll see stuff pop up in your subscription feed. And